Hello and welcome to my channel, Bevvy with Beth. I'm Beth, and here on this channel I talk all about polycystic ovarian syndrome, the symptoms, how to cope with them, and how my personal journey with PCOS is going. So if that sounds like something that would be interesting to you, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below to catch my videos every single week. And today we're going to be talking about stress. I have spoken before on my channel about cortisol, which is the stress hormone, how that works, and some simple tips on how to manage stress. But you may know that I recently moved house, which if you've ever done it, then you definitely know how stressful that situation can be. So I wanted to talk about a few of the things that I have actually done to support myself during this most stressful time. Kind of show you behind the scenes of how I actually manage my stress, particularly at these heightened stress scenarios that come up in life that cannot be avoided, that need to just be managed, and how to kind of cope with them. I will be showing a few bits of like B-roll footage of me doing the things that I did to cope with the stress, but I just want to be honest right now, I did not film it while I was trying to de-stress myself during the move. So for starters, you'll see some of the things I talk about that I actually did in my old house, and the footage will be me in my new house, but also filming something is in itself a little bit stressful. So while I was going through a hyper stressful time, I didn't have the capacity to then record myself trying to unwind. That would just have been counterproductive. So these are things that I genuinely did during that time, but they are definitely not being done at this time, if you see what I mean. I've got some beautiful footage of it, but don't be fooled. It may not have looked this pretty at the time, but I genuinely did it in order to cope with stress. So I hope that you will find this a little bit helpful, maybe give you some ideas on what you can do to help your stress. If you see something and you're inspired by it and you're going to give it a try, do leave me a comment below to let me know how it went for you. Or if you have your own ideas on how you can manage your stress, then again, leave a comment, because it'll help the whole community to know some hints and tips and tricks on how to manage stress. So let's start with tip number 1, mindfulness. One of the best things that I've found to help me to reduce my stress is not to constantly feel like I'm always busy and I don't have time to do even the smallest of tasks that are outside the immediate must be done to-do list. One of the times that I find the best at kind of slowing down in this way is in the mornings and in the evenings. So both of those times I will be drinking a hot drink. So morning time, it's normally a coffee, and then in the evening, it'll tend to be some form of tea. So I always try to make this almost like a ritual when I am fully aware of every single step that I am taking, from I'd like a cup of tea right through to I'm taking my first sip of tea. During this process, I am aware of each moment. I'm focusing on things like my breathing, my feet on the ground, the sound of the kettle boiling, and even the colour of the water as I am mixing the ingredients together. I just find this helps to give me a moment of peace, where what I'm focusing on is a super simple task that also results in a reward at the end. When I take that first sip, it feels like I've really accomplished something that's also incredibly pleasurable to enjoy. This helps me to put off the overwhelm, basically, to kind of push everything else out and simply focus on this one simple, beautiful, tasty act. The second tip I have for you is moving your body. So whether that is doing something like going out and taking a walk, maybe it's doing some yoga, or simply just doing a little bit of dance, like not doing a dance performance, but literally just wiggling around to some fun music. Simply moving your body is a way of using your biological need to get rid of that stress hormone, to literally relax your body and change your mindset from a stressed, overwhelmed state to a calmer, relaxed, and more focused way of being. Tip number 3, and that would be to do some form of self-care. So whether that is doing something like taking a bath, or whether it's focusing on a particular aspect during the shower, like a face mask or a hair mask, or taking an extra step of doing some exfoliating, or whatever it is in that kind of like bath time, shower time that we do every day, that you can take for yourself to make it a bit more of a treat rather than simply a task that you have to perform. Maybe it's something that you eat, so you give yourself something that's particularly enjoyable for you. And I don't necessarily mean something that you would consider a cheat, because again, we don't want to be getting into this habit of viewing food as naughty, and so we're having something because it's naughty. I mean something that you genuinely find enjoyable. So for me, this is actually avocado. I love avocados, and if I can add it to my breakfast, then it for some reason feels really luxurious to me and like a bit of a treat, whilst at the same time being super healthy. So it doesn't have to be a healthy treat. It can be a slice of cake or a cookie if that's what you really want. But as long as that's not going to lead you into some kind of guilt trip of then over exercising or not eating enough the next day, if you can view it as simply a treat and something that you deserve to have in that day, I find this a really great way of kind of keeping a bit of happiness, a bit of joy in life throughout this stressful time. And tip number 4 is to simply get out what it is that's stressing you. So there are a few different ways that you can do this. Obviously, one of the best ones is to have a conversation with somebody about it. But another great way is actually to write it down, whether that's in a journal form, or for me, actual physical writing is really difficult. So I tend to use a memo app to talk about it, but without actually having a conversation with somebody. A way of kind of working through what it is that makes you stressed. And the reason that this is a really good idea is not simply to complain at somebody or to wind yourself up going over the same scenarios again and again, but actually by talking through the process, looking for a solution. So for me, for example, at this point, it was moving house. There wasn't much I could do to remove the actual stress, but by doing a voice memo, as I was talking about the things that were making me anxious or worrying me, or going through that to-do list of all the things that you have to do before you can actually even begin to move house, it meant I could come up with solutions. So for example, actually creating a physical to-do list, taking the time to give myself a bath so that I had some quiet time to relax. Things like giving myself permission to simply be a bit stressed because I'm moving house, and not expecting myself to be all serene and peaceful and perfect during a time of big turmoil, and being able to say to myself that I accept that I'm a little bit stressed, and not put pressure on myself to perform in a certain manner or complete tasks at a certain time when it wasn't really necessary. Just to having that verbal confirmation from myself that stress is just stress and that's okay. And it's also only for a short period of time. Eventually I will be in a new house and I will be happy and everything will be sorted. That I just have to get through this time really helped me to put the stress into perspective and not allow it to become all-consuming and completely overwhelming. So those are the 4 main things that I did on a practical level to actually help myself with stress. If you found this helpful, then don't forget to give it a like, because it really does mean so much to me to know that when I put a video out, you are able to enjoy it. And if you have any hints or tips or examples of how you yourself have handled stress, again, leave it in the comment down below, because I love to have a discussion with you guys about how you're managing your stress. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.